Welcome to the Relatable Hour with me, Dr. Green. Thank you so very much for joining. Tonight, we have a great guest who has
Thank you.
blessed us with some time to talk because he has a lot of great things going on. Very versatile guy who's doing some amazing things, and we'll get to that in just a second. But that kind of brings me to the point of tonight's topic, which is versatility. We talked about this before in past episodes with people that are doing some great things, not stifling themselves just to staying in one area or one box. And I think it's important to continue to have these conversations because there are people doing some great things that maybe have started in one area, but they blossom in so many other areas as well. And when you see someone that's doing it, that also means that if this is your desire, you can do it too. So I'm hoping that today's conversation will help you move even more closer to doing something else, using your skills in a different way, using your talents in a different way, but not limiting yourself to staying in one box. So I would like to introduce to you all Vincent Levy. Mr. Levy, thank you so very much for joining us, sir.
Dr. Green, it's a pleasure, man. The pleasure is all
Yes.
mine. I appreciate you, my friend.
Great to have you here. I'm really excited about this conversation because, like I said, you're doing some amazing things, and I really think it's going to inspire other people to, tap into themselves, tap into their network, tap into their skills, and do more with their lives. So, if you would just kind of tell the audience a little bit about yourself and what's brought you here today.
All right, a little bit about myself. I was born in Aurora, Colorado, but grew up in Los Angeles, between what I call the best of both worlds. My parents got divorced when I was really young. My dad stayed in the inner city, so the Inglewood area, and my mom moved to the Valley. So I literally had both experiences. So it's been incredible. What's kind of helped shape who I am and some of the things that I've done over the course of my years. Most recently, I transitioned from a career in law enforcement. I was a detective. My wheelhouse was a crisis negotiator, hostage negotiator. I was a crisis intervention trainer and officer and mental health first aid instructor. And when I transitioned from law enforcement, I took those skills, combined them, and created a hybrid product, which is based in verbal de-escalation. The name of the program is called C.A.L.M, and it stands for communication, awareness, language, and mindset. And I'm grateful the state of Tennessee has approved that program to be part of the curriculum for armed guard training. It meets their standard to meet the Dallas law, so I'm excited about that. And I also offer that training to anybody that needs it, from first responders to corporate individuals, anybody with uh, what was that word? What's that word? With customer service,
Customer service is what we say.
anywhere where you're dealing with people,
Yeah.
but it's also a life skill, right? Of knowing
Yeah.
how to de-escalate a situation. So very excited about that. And to pay the bills, I have a security company, so I teach, do the armed guard training, but I also provide executive protection for a myriad of clients, from the music industry to high net worth individuals. So sometimes I am kind of here and there. And
Thank you for being able to be a part of it and carving some time to make it happen. I know that you really do have a really busy schedule. Just with what you've shared with us already, I know firsthand, how busy you generally are. So thank you so much for joining.
thank you.
So right off the bat, I mean, I in my mind feel like anybody that goes in law enforcement, they have to have a desire and a passion for it, and it has to start somewhere. Um, Talk to us a little bit about you and how you were even interested in going into law enforcement, because
Mhm.
that's such a very specific field that requires a certain amount of skills, a certain amount of
Mhm.
mindsets that not everybody
Sure,
has.
sure, sure. For me, it's like a storybook, storybook, something for a lifetime movie. Growing up in, between LA and the Valley, I had encounters with law enforcement, and some of my earliest memories as a child were seeing an LAPD unit pull up to a light and running up to the vehicle to tap on the window because they had baseball cards with the officers' information on them and kind of what their jobs were, if they were a detective or on SWAT or whatever. And you would run up and tap on a window, and they'd roll down their window, dig through their gear bags, and hand you a baseball card. So I always had positive encounters with law enforcement growing up. And then when I was in middle school, because I think you had to be 13 or 12, I became a police explorer, and that was at the Van Nuys division. And it was a great experience. It's an incredible program. I'm pretty sure they still have them today. And the Explorer program is basically like the Boy Scouts, but for law enforcement. So you go, you get a uniform, it's paramilitary, you learn things about law enforcement. I went on ride alongs, which the things we did then, there ain't no way we could get away with it now as far as
Mm.
liabilities. But and you had officers that would throw you in the front seat and take you out on patrol, and that was it. And
Wow.
you would drive around. We had lockers next to officers, so you'd be down there putting on your little uniform, and the only gear that we had or tool was our mag light, our 6L D-cell mag light. So we'd strap on our mag light, and the guy next to you would be putting on his vest, loading up his service weapon. So I had some really good encounters, some amazing officers that I still, if I could find them today, it'd be amazing. I'd love to like reach out. I got names of guys, and you go through the police academy down by Dodger Stadium. So that
Wow.
really, for me, and I'll say this as a black man or black kid, it my encounters were good, so that later in life, when I became a teenager, because I was a teenager during the Chief Gates days with the Rampart issues and the bad look that police were getting. I knew in my mind that that wasn't all the police officers, because I had encounters with great, and they happened to all be white, and they were amazing people to me. I mean, incredible. So I'm thankful for that, because it gave me what I call a true baseline, so that when I was a young adult, and I did have encounters with some officers that probably either were having a bad day or were just bad cops, but I knew that they didn't speak for the entire uniformed, division. And I'll say this, just like myself, I don't want people to look at me a certain way because of what they see somebody that looks like me doing on the news, and it's the same coin flipped over. So,
Yeah.
but that's kind of started it. And then I won't say that I had this desire to always be a cop, because I didn't. I just had a
Hmm.
great experience. And later on in life, moving to Tennessee, the opportunity presented itself, and I was, old, if you will. And I thought, why not? And did it, and started in a county out here. I mean, I remember the day I drove to the sheriff's office to meet the sheriff. I had been talking to the chief deputy, and he's the one that invited me to come down and put it in my GPS in my truck. And I drove to this county and pulled up. And Sherman, when I tell you, Mayberry, the
Oh,
jail, and the sheriff's office was a literal house. There was a screen door, and I walked in, and the sheriff, I mean, Brandon Boone, I love that man to death. Just a mountain of a man. Brandon's probably 6'2" or 3, every bit 2'8". I mean, just a big mountain of a man, but the most humble, just nicest, most genuine person that you would ever meet. And he gave me an opportunity, and that started my law enforcement career working for him. And I was at that sheriff's office, I believe it was 3 years before I transitioned to the city that I most recently worked for him. So
mm.
great experience. Because of that, went to a lot of amazing schools, got introduced to the human behavior aspect of law enforcement, the read technique, interview and interrogation, reading body language, and that was it for me. I was
Hmm.
like a duck to water for that. I loved it and still do to this day.
Yeah. And I'm glad you brought that portion up, because the vibe I get from you just in your just your demeanor, the way that you interact with people, I feel as though you on the job would kind of mirror that same type of behavior. I'm curious, when you were in that line of work, kind of on a daily basis in that
Mm-hmm.
regard, did you kind of get approached differently because of the way that you approached people? because I think sometimes you do find those officers who maybe had that bad day
Hmm.
and they kind of let it out on the people that they're,
Hmm.
kind of, impacting. But,
Sure.
for you having your kind of cool, calm demeanor, did it come across a little differently when you would, have to interact with people?
Absolutely. Absolutely. I felt one of the things that happens when you become a police officer, and it's similar to life, is you have to figure out what kind of cop you're going to be.
Right.
And I don't mean that in the sense of good cop, bad cop, but like, what is your passion? Are you the guy that, you know, doesn't like seeing people get hurt in crashes? So you're really going to hammer on distracted driving and cell phones or DUIs, or are you all about getting drugs out of the cars? You got to kind of figure out who you are. And for me, it was easy because I drew from what I experienced where these officers were just really good people and they just so happened to be cops. So that's what I did. I was just me. I treated people like people. My first FTO, he taught me this, and I'll never forget these words. He said, every encounter, this was what he told me. He says, as a police officer, your job is to make every encounter that person has with law enforcement a good one. He goes, that's your challenge. He goes, it doesn't matter what it is, how hard they make it. He said, that's your job. The guy in the
Mm,
back seat, he's going to jail. He's in handcuffs. He's going to jail. You're going home. So there's no need to berate him or even if he's talking trash to give the negative back because he's going to jail. He goes, always remember that you're going home. He's like, so always try to make it a good encounter. And that's one of the things I tried to do when I was a police officer all those years is I just try, even if somebody had to go to jail or write them a ticket, I always tried to make it a positive encounter on my end. Because again, you can't control other people, but I can control the energy that I bring to that situation. And that's one
no,
of the
that's
bases for my verbal de-escalation program is that awareness. Be aware of the energy that you're bringing because at the end of the day, that's all you can control is what you bring to the table. So that's really what the kind of officer that I was. And I've been fortunate, blessed that people have approached me even to this day and say, hey, you know what? I don't know if you remember me, but I had this encounter with you and it was a really good encounter and I still remember it to this day. And so it makes me feel good because it means I did a lot of good, helped a lot of people and I achieved what I sought out to do was just to be good to people, to be,
yeah, and that's a great takeaway too, for people to remember you.
mm-hmm,
Speaks very highly to the impact that you had on them at that time.
mm-hmm,
Um, your verbal escalation, as you just kind of spoke to,
mm-hmm.
that had to have been a brainchild from some type of entity. Like, what do you think kind of prompted you to kind of, create that and kind of make something to that so that other people could learn and grow from that?
Well, I noticed, unfortunately, that some of my brothers and sisters in law enforcement were seen in the news, and of course, that's just a snapshot, but seen in the news making choices that weren't the best choices or decisions that weren't the best decisions. I had a martial arts teacher tell me years ago, and I'm sure it's been repeated thousands of times, but he said, if the only tool you have is a hammer, then everything looks like a nail.
Mm,
I thought, wow, which I didn't get it
that's
at
profound.
18
Yeah.
years old,
Yeah, yeah,
but
yeah.
later on in law enforcement, you kind of realize that and you see it that you have all these tools, but the focus tends to be, if we're not careful, on the one tool. I taught the GREAT program, which was the newer version of DARE. Right? It was gang resistance education and training, and it taught citizenship skills. It actually taught um, middle schoolers and elementary schoolers verbal de-escalation skills, crisis, recognizing their own feelings. Is a really good program. But when I would meet these kids and I would show up the first day and I do like a Q&A because everybody wants to ask questions. And of course, the first things they ask you ever shot anybody? That's always the first question. You ever been shot at? Um, but we would talk about the stuff on my belt and they would ask questions. And I would ask kids, what do you think is the number one tool that I use the most of out of all this stuff? And it's your gun, it's your gun, it's your
Mhm,
your taser, your taser, and I would point and I'd say, no, the one thing that I use every single day, I said, is this right here
mhm,
and this right here.
mhm.
I said, and then it's my pen or my pen, as my pen, because I'm taking information down. I said, it's not this. So in the law enforcement culture, and a lot of agencies are really good. The agency that I came from was really good about developing the whole officer,
Right.
as you will. It's not just about how big, how fast can you shoot, can you. Those are all important because when the time comes for you to defend the safety of another or your partner or yourself, you better be as advertised, 100%. But there's also another aspect to that job, which is, LAPD, protect and serve. It's a customer service industry. You're seeing people at their worst, at their hardest moments. They're, be it a loss due to a theft or a loss due to an accident or so on and so forth. Your customer service. So you need to have those skills. Those skills need to be honed just as much as your bench press, your squat, your run, your draw times, your split times, whatever the case is, because that's what you're going to be using day in and day out. So I saw that need. And because of how I was raised, because of my upbringing, I happen to have that gift of verbal de-escalation and knowing how to read people and de-escalate because of things that I experienced growing up and a skill set that I developed that I didn't even realize. But it helped me to become good at it. And people would say, "Oh man, well, how do you do that?" And I was like, "Do what?" I'm like, "It's just listening to people. It's not that hard." But what I realized is it is if you don't realize you're doing it, you don't get the reps. So I took the training that I received from the crisis intervention. I took what I learned from the mental health first aid. I took what I learned from the hostage negotiation, and I combined all those techniques with my years of life experience and then created the program from that.
Wow. And I love how you saw the importance to piece all those things together.
Mm-hmm.
Because I'm sure a lot of people, especially in law enforcement, don't think of those things as being top priority in,
Mm-hmm.
kind of, de-escalating situations. But I could see all of that being hand in hand. I mean, when
Mm-hmm.
you're approaching somebody, you don't know the type of day that that person is having
Mm-hmm.
or their behavior status, their, demeanor. Like you just don't know any of those things. So
Mm-hmm.
just coming prepared with all bits and pieces of all those things can come in handy quite well.
Right.
Um, if you were to say, just based on your experience in law enforcement, what has been one of the primary reasons that, when you would pull someone over or have interactions with people, what would be the reason? Not necessarily reason. What would be the main cause of their conflict at that time, that moment in time? What would it be, so to speak? Like, would they just be having a bad day? Would they be going through some mental health challenges? What would be some of
uh,
the most prominent
well, I
things?
mean, nobody likes to get pulled over at the
No
end of the
one
day
does. Yeah.
because
Yeah.
instantly you think, okay, I'm going to get a ticket. It's going to cost me money.
Yeah.
I want to have to go to traffic school. I'm going to be late to wherever I was going. And there's all these, negatives.
Right.
And then it also depends on the energy that the officer brings.
Right.
Some are great. The majority of them are great and they're professional how they do it. There's some that aren't so professional. And then it's a dance, if you will. It's a dance. I had a thing program that I used to do, again, full cop, because I was still a police officer. So as I'm walking up to your car, I'm looking to see your body language. What are you doing? Am I pulling up? Are you nervous? Are you doing this? Are you gripping the
Hmm.
steering wheel because you're terrified? You've never pulled it over before. I mean, I've had that with young people.
Hmm.
So I read that walking up, and then I was polite. I had my spiel. Good afternoon, sir. Officer Levy with Cookville Police Department. The reason I stopped you is I noticed that you were not wearing your seatbelt. Are you aware in the state of Tennessee that you're required to wear that seatbelt? No, sorry, that's not what I would say. I combined the two. I would say, I noticed you weren't wearing your seatbelt. Is there a reason you didn't have it on?
Mm. Okay.
Or I noticed you had your phone in your hand. Is there a reason? I always give them an opportunity to
Hmm.
explain. I put it on them. I don't say,
Yeah.
you weren't wearing your seatbelt, you're guilty. Or
Right.
no, no, no. Is there a reason? And someone go, I just pulled out of Walmart. I was putting my phone down and I forgot to put it on. Some people are honest. I never wear them. I don't think they're dumb. I don't think you should be able to wear them. and that gives me a talking point as well. But I just felt things went better if I gave the person an opportunity to explain, hey, is there a reason? Because there very
Mm-hmm.
well might be a good reason.
Mm-hmm.
I got a 3-year-old in the back. He just threw up when I pulled out and I looked over my shoulder. No problem. Make sure you put it on. Have a good day. Or I'm
Mm-hmm.
speeding because I just got an emergency phone call from blank. I've had that. Well, hey, you want to get there in one piece, so I understand that you're still breaking the law. We don't want you to have an accident and not get there at all. So please slow down. I've had some people say, hey, you know what? I was just being a dumbass, wasn't paying attention. So it really kind of broke the ice based on the energy that I brought. Now, if they just wanted to be rude, no problem. All right, hey, can I get your plea? I need your license registration, please. And have you had a ticket? Then ask more. Have you had a ticket in the past 6 months or been stopped for anything? No. Okay, well, I'm going to verify that. And that's the case. I'm probably just going to give you a warning, which isn't going to cost you anything. It's just going to cost you time. So just give me a couple of minutes and I'll be right back.
Mm.
That was my spiel.
Mm-hmm. It's so customer service oriented. Like I'm getting such a
That's
custom. That's
that's it.
it.
I'll tell
Yeah.
you what my goal was. My goal is funny talking about this. My goal was to see if I could get the person to tell me thank you after writing them a ticket.
Oh wow.
That was like a chess game. So I can get them.
Yeah.
I just wrote you a ticket and you told me thank you. That's a
Yeah.
win. And more
That's a
often than
win.
not, that's what I got because I was
Wow.
polite. And
Yep.
now again, there were some times I pulled people over and there was I could write them a check for whatever. They just whatever. And you take that with a grain of salt. The key is you don't take things personal. Whatever, be mean, call me whatever, quotas, whatever you want to say, whatever. You're just polite. The key is to ignore the ego, which is
Hmm.
hard because that badge gets heavy. Ignore
Mm.
the ego to give that negative energy back because you
Mm.
have to stay task oriented. What was my task? My task was to keep the community safe by affecting this traffic stop for blank. I'm doing that. I don't care what they're saying because at the end of the day, they're getting their ticket, they're signing their ticket. I'm cool. Say whatever you want, whatever. Say, call me names, do no problem as long as you're not trying to hurt me or you can sell wolf tickets all day long. I've done what I sought out to do. Issue the citation. I'm on. Take care.
Mm.
Take care. So I
Well,
know I
I can
kind of went
honestly.
all over the place to answer your question, but
No, no, no.
it
That
just
was good. I like the explanation. That was
mm-hmm,
good. I think people need to hear just the whole picture. I can honestly say, just speaking in my uh, defense, I don't know, in my world, I've never
mm-hmm.
encountered a police officer that gave like customer service or spiel like
Yes,
that.
it's
It's always
sad.
been on the other end of that. I mean, it hasn't been unpleasant, but it definitely was not
Mm-hmm,
pleasant. It was
mm-hmm,
somewhere in the middle.
mm-hmm.
And I'm curious to know, I mean, you kind of just said it that the badge gets heavy and their ego is a part of it. Do you think that that kind of drives the energy that they kind of bring to people
I
sometimes?
think that does with everybody. I think every
Okay.
industry. I don't think. I mean, it could be a coach, a teacher. What is it? Power corrupts. What is it saying? Absolute power.
Hmm.
I'm messing it up. Power corrupts and absolute power corrupts absolutely or something.
Yeah.
It's hard. I mean, that's a lot of authority when you think about it. I mean, you be once you get sworn in, you have the ability to deprive people of two of the most sacred elements of our being, their freedom and their life.
Yeah.
That's heavy.
That is heavy.
That's heavy. That's really heavy. So, and my heart goes out because it is a hard job.
Yeah.
I am not a cop hater. I did the job. Do we make mistakes? Hell yeah, to make mistakes. But I dare somebody do the job. You sit in your chair and you armchair quarterback and you talk about this and that. You go do the job.
Right.
You do the job.
That's right. It's
I
it's a
mean, the
lot.
toll. Oh yeah, the toll that it takes and the things that you have to balance and maintain from the person that's a police officer to your family and your relationships to I mean it's all intertwined and all the things again you catch people at their worst without getting emotional. I've held a man that lost his entire family in a car crash, everybody, his wife, well, he had one daughter left,
Oh
and
boy.
held him in my, I mean, to have to do that, and then to experience, somebody taking their own life, to, I mean, all the things that you have to juggle as an officer to make a split that you have milliseconds. I shared a story with my mom. We were talking about something, she had saw on the news, and I told her I had two situations in my life as a police officer where I was, I mean, you're not a gun guy, but when I say I pulled the slack out of my trigger, so there's, when you're manipulating a trigger, you have what's called slack. It's a little bit of
Mhm.
movement depending on the firearm. You have a little bit of movement before you get to what's called the wall, which is, you're right there. Any more pressure, and it's going to go bang. Right. So you learn to pull your trigger up to the wall, and when it goes, there were two situations where I was at that point, and one of them I would have shot I think he was 12 year old, and another one was a woman that was a homeowner. And in both situations, I would have been in the right for my shooting
Mhm.
had I not hesitated. But that hesitation helped me to make a good decision, but it also could have cost me my life, where my kids would have got a folded flag.
Wow.
One was responding to a alarm call at a house, and dispatch failed to tell me that the house was occupied. So when you answer a call like that, you park down the road, right? You creep up, because if somebody's breaking into the house, you don't want them to know you're there.
Right. Yeah, yeah,
So
yeah.
I was creeping up to the house. It was a stormy night, and I was clearing the perimeter of the house, and I walked down a breezeway, and the woman did not know that I was there and was home. And I heard a blood curdling scream through this breezeway. It was a patio. And when I turned and looked, I was looking down the barrel of a 357.
Wow.
All I saw was a screaming gun. I mean, I had milliseconds to, and I started yelling and basically backpedaled and ran. She could have shot me, could have shot her. I didn't. All I know was I saw a gun. The other one was clearing a house during a raid at a drug house, and we were clearing rooms, and my partner went off and left me, and I cleared a room, and there's a gentleman in the room, and I was giving him verbals. I had my rifle on him, telling him, "Show me your hands, get on the floor," the whole nine. There was a dog barking right here. I can still see the dog, and the room was full of trash, and there was a bunch of
Oh,
trash and books piled up like on a desk, and the
yeah.
dog was barking, and I'm looking, going, all right, I'm gonna have to shoot this dog if it comes at me. And then the dog stopped barking and looked this way behind the pile, and I saw that, and I saw movement, and I swung around because something was coming up behind, and it was a kid that was back behind the pile of stuff that was coming out from behind. He could have had a gun. He could have had, I mean, milliseconds. So
Wow.
I say all that to say, do the job before
Mhm.
you
Right.
off these cops that make mistakes, or do the job.
Mhm.
Go out there.
That's a
Go out there.
extremely hard decision and hard place to even be, like even in that moment, as you just kind of illustrated that.
Mm-hmm.
Wow.
Yeah, do the job. I can tell you some. I got some great ones, man. We had a
I'm sure.
program with a college where college kids rode around, and there was this young man that did not like police. He had obviously bad experiences. He's college age, and when it came time to do ride-alongs, because at the time I think I was the only black officer at my department, and he chose me, which I thought was funny. So he chose to ride along with me. So we were out riding one night, and just cruising around, and we're conversating back and forth. He's kind of feeling me out with his conversation, where I grew up, and again, just did not like police. And a unit came flying by, running code, so lights and sirens. And he said, "What's that? Where are they going?" And I looked on the computer. I said, "Oh, it said it's an alarm call." And it was around 11:30 at night, and it's common to get those calls because somebody is leaving a business and they accidentally set off the alarm or something. So that's common around that time. So he goes, "Can we go?" I was like, "Yeah." So I flipped around, told dispatch that I was en route. And as we're driving, more information comes on the radio, and it turns out that it was a armed robbery at a gas station.
Got it.
And he was headed a certain direction. So we drove and we started to set up a perimeter. So I was on this one area, and I'll never forget, it was snowing, started to snow, and we were parked on this one street. Lights were both the lights on, and they were dispatching canines and everything. And I told him, I was like, hey, stay in the car. We just got to be aware. He's like, so what now? And I explained what was going on. So then every time a vehicle turned on this road, I would stop the vehicle, look inside, and make sure, obviously, nobody matched the description. So he asked me a good question. He said, so what happens? He said, what are you doing? I said, well, I'm stopping, looking in the car. And he said, well, what if somebody matches the description, but it's the wrong guy? And I said, well, what I would do is, if I see the person, pull them out, go through the process. If it's not that person, I said, I would apologize, give them my badge number, my information. And if they have any issues or questions, they're welcome to call a supervisor, so on and so forth. And I said, and that's what I would do. And then I said, what I would hope is that after the emotion, because I understand, oh, you're stopping me, and they're angry. But after
Right.
the emotion falls down in about an hour, that they realize, hey, man, he did apologize. They are looking for somebody. I'm wearing a black sweatshirt like the other guy. I get it. I said, I would hope for that kind of understanding, right? So we had that conversation, but I'll never forget. I said, so I have to stop every car. He goes, what do you mean? I said, yeah. I said, he goes, but the guy's got a gun. I said, yeah. He's like, I ain't doing that. I'm like, no, that's your job. I
Mm-hmm.
said, I have to stop every car knowing that I might walk up to the car that the guy's in that has a gun. And he's like, well, I wouldn't do that. I'm like, oh, so there's another side of the, okay. So now you understand that there's a different aspect to this
Right.
job that, and I have a child your age, because my daughter was in college. I have a kid your age, and I've got a wife, I've got a kid, but yet I'm getting paid X amount of dollars to do this, to
Right.
keep this bad person off the street. But I have to make that choice to, again, do
Mhm.
the job. Before
Yeah.
you start getting mad, do the job
Do the job.
for 40, 50, 60,000 a year, depending on where you do the job,
Wow. And
you
it's
know,
quite a sacrifice. It definitely
100%.
is.
Yeah, 100%.
Definitely
So I
is.
will always support, because do the job, love them. They don't get paid enough. They don't get enough training. And it can be rewarding, but it can really take its toll.
Hmm.
Really take its toll. Yeah.
And I'm glad you said that because you spent quite a substantial amount of time and experience in that particular career.
Mhm.
There was ultimately a time when it was time for you to go to another level with it,
Mhm.
and talking with the topic that we've brought up today. You've found a way to, use those experiences and those talents that you had in that line of work and to use it in a different capacity.
Mhm.
So after you kind of got out of the detective work and things of that nature, what was the deciding factor for you to start expounding on your experience?
So I use the term scaffolding
Okay.
in life, and I feel like it's very sad that people are afraid to get involved in something with the mindset of, this is not my forever. I knew that
Right.
being a cop, even though I loved it, great experience, great department, it was not the end of the road. I did not see myself, when I closed my eyes and I visualized myself achieving my dreams, it was not retiring from X police department with so on and so forth. It wasn't. I was made for bigger and better things. And thank my mom for that. I was made
Hmm.
for greater things. So my mindset has always been, what can I learn while I'm here? Let me learn as much as I can. Let me be an empty bucket, and then always be aware of opportunities, and then look at my tools and say, okay, well, I've been doing this for this long. I can use this to go over here. And I don't know if that's something special, because there's guys that I mentor, and I encourage them to do that. And sometimes they look at me like I'm speaking French, and they're like, oh, wow, I never thought of that. But to me, I've always thought like that. Well, I will take a job just because I want to learn something. You know what? I want to learn about blank. So I'm going to go do that for a while.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's not what I want to do forever, but I can learn this. And now because I've learned that, I'm going to take that and take this over here and then utilize it here. And it's the scaffolding. And it's going to help me get here because of everything that I've done behind me has created me to be able to do and have the confidence and the skill set to do what I'm able to do today because I spent the time and learned and did, and gathered that information so that I can, do things. I guess scaffolding is kind of
Okay.
is having the confidence to not get caught in that rut, but you got to
Mm-hmm.
have faith in yourself and not be afraid to fail. I hate that
Mm-hmm.
word because failure is not final. It's just learning, as they say, failing forward. All right, what did I learn? What could I? Okay,
Mm-hmm.
and just constantly striving to do more and to see what else you can do and achieve.
Mm-hmm. Well, yeah, I'm grateful that you were able to kind of see that within yourself too, because I was just kind of thinking, I think I know more people who stay in law enforcement and like retire in it. They
Mm-hmm.
may, be promoted to certain areas or things of that nature, but they primarily stay in that line of work and then they retire from it. I don't know
Mm-hmm.
if I've seen too many individuals start off as an officer and then kind of say, you know what, I want to do something different. I want to take
Mm-hmm.
this up a new level. I think they primarily stay, which is fine. There's nothing wrong with that. But
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
I
Yeah, it's
think that,
great.
yeah, it's great. Nothing wrong with it at all. But I think it's also great to, see within yourself to see that you can do more with what you have learned and experienced and
Mm-hmm.
kind of take it in a different direction for yourself. So how did that look like for you when you actually did, formulate the plan and you started to, look within yourself and think about things that you wanted to do?
So I started by teaching mental health first aid. Again, I was a unicorn, if you will. The company
Hmm.
that contacted me of all the mental health first aid instructors, and it was my department that sent me to get certified. So I thank them because they sent me to the school, paid for the school for me to get trained to become an instructor, and I started teaching. But it's not a subject that officers like to talk about and to deal with. So when they found an officer who could teach it, and that people officers were like, well, yeah, you know what, he gets it because he's doing the job, or at that
Right.
point, after I transitioned from law enforcement, he'd done the job, he knows, so I can relate and I could
Yeah.
take the techniques and I could take the curriculum and package it in a way that was relevant to them because I did the job.
Right.
So that started that path, and I literally taught almost every agency here in Tennessee. I mean, Tennessee Highway Patrol, Metro Nashville did theirs for all of their officers when they started their program, and I took pride in it because it's something that we don't
Hmm.
talk about enough is the mental health aspect of it for men in general, but for those of us in law enforcement. So I really took pride in it and really enjoyed doing it, which I still do it, but I really enjoyed it during that time. But that was the catalyst of, yeah, I can do this. And again, I've never been afraid to like screw up and fail, call that good or bad. But I've never been
No, no,
afraid to
I
be
think
like,
it's great. It's
you know
great.
what, try it.
Yeah.
Be
Yeah.
like, yeah, I tried that, didn't work.
Uh-huh.
I'm like, hey,
I mean, that's how we learn and grow. Like when we kind of push ourselves to see if we can do it, if we fail
mm-hmm.
or if we, prosper, I mean, you have to have that edge to do it. So
Mm-hmm.
I don't think it's bad at all. I think it's all great. I think it's
Yep.
all great.
And I'll tell
So
you, my 53-year-old brain, the most important part of all of it, it's what you learn in the journey.
mhm,
It's not when you achieve it. That's great, but that goes. It's everything. Because I look back at failed businesses and like, yeah, but I learned blank, 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 blank. So were it not for that, I wouldn't be able to do this or have the confidence because I'm like, no, I already know what's not going to work. I know what not
mhm,
to do. So I get excited when I mentor these young guys, and I'm like, bro, I could help you because I can save you so much time. Because yeah, I'm pretty far ahead, but let me tell you, had I done this instead of this, that's gonna bump you up. If you do this instead of this, but it's just finding cats that are willing to listen and go, oh, you know what? Okay, I'm gonna try that.
mhm.
That are willing to listen. But
Yeah.
uh,
Well, I'm glad that you're trying to share the knowledge with people.
Hmm.
Because you've definitely experienced a lot, and you know exactly the pitfalls and things to stay away from
Hmm.
at this juncture, which kind of talks about, well, we're talking about just this ability to multifacet your talents and your skills and everything that you've done. We've talked about something that
Hmm.
you didn't know that you were kind of, you know, building upon when you were younger, but now, current day, you're doing something that is really kind of a component from doing that said thing when you were
Right.
much younger. Talk to us a little bit about what you're doing now, what you're currently
Yeah.
developing, and the type of work that you're looking to do with this new juncture and this new venture
Yeah.
you're taking.
Well, and thanks to you because you're one of the people that was like, you know what, you should really.
It was
Not
it
everybody does.
was excellent.
So,
It was excellent. People, let me tell you,
yeah.
it,
So.
when he first shared this with me, I was like, "Oh wow, that is amazing." Because, and I'm not gonna spoil it or anything, but when I heard it, I was just thinking like, "Man, people really need to hear this. People need to
Mhm.
hear how this is like a real deal thing that we've been doing. Some people have,
Mhm.
and in your line of work and working in law enforcement, I mean, it's a game changer. So I'll
Mhm.
let you expound on it, but definitely it was a great idea when you shared it
Thank
with me.
you. Thank you. Well, again, you get kudos because you were one of the people who encouraged me. So it's important to have good people around you. So, my mother growing up was hearing impaired. And because of that, there were skills that I developed and strengthened and developed throughout my childhood to the adult that I didn't realize was an actual skill that could be taught and developed, and that not everybody did. So I coined the phrase ear hustling. Some of you may have heard that, but it's a word that I've been using. If you talk to my daughters, they'll tell you, "Yeah, don't talk around dad because he ear hustles." And it's funny. It's not eavesdropping per se, but
Right.
ear hustling is the ability to maximize divided attention.
Mm.
So, because of how I was raised, how I grew up, I have the ability where I can focus on a television show or a conversation, and I can hear and process the conversation over here, and hear and process the conversation, and do both. And I've done it for so long that my brain has become acute to it where it does it rapidly. And the best way I can explain it, and I just did a TED talk or created a TED talk where I talk about it, is it's focusing on one conversation or a sound and then listening to another and letting the one you're focused on fade into the background without letting it go all the way. So you'll and then just kind of going back and forth, almost like a fader would go from left to right. So my mother being hard of hearing, I have my earliest memories. Man, I was 5 or 6, and I'd be laying on the floor watching cartoons, and my mom had this yellow rotary phone, right? Take you back, and it had an
Um,
amplifier in it, and it had a button. The yellow phone had a button. We had a brown phone that had a dial. And
okay.
back then, what they did for people that were hearing impaired is they just amplified the sound. That was their answer for everything. So my mother would be on the phone talking, and she could hear, but she struggled, and she'd be having a conversation. And when she started having issues hearing what was on the other line, she would call me over. Hey, Vince, come tell me what this person was saying. So I'd get up, walk over, get on the phone. They said X, Y, Z, A, B, C. Well, when you're 5 and 6 years old, you're selfish. I was selfish. I wanted to watch cartoons. I didn't
Mm.
want to be interrupted with having to help her on the phone. So what I started doing is I started developing the skill of watching the cartoons. And if I heard the phone ring, I knew I had to pay attention. So I would start listening in the background. Like I told you, lower that volume to where I
Hmm.
would be listening to her on the phone. And the amplifier was so loud, and this is where I developed my ear hustling skills, that if I listened, I could hear their conversation. So I'd be listening to their conversation, watching cartoons, and when she started to have an issue, before she could ask, I'd go, Mom, they said blah, 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 back to my cartoons.
Hmm.
And it was a win. So again, started doing that at 5 till I was 6, 7, 8, 9, over and over and over. And then I had to develop another layer of the skill, which I didn't realize what it was, but I was learning human behavior, proxemics, body language, micro expressions, and nonverbal communication to the nth power. So my mother was an artist and she would travel and do art shows, and I would go with her. We'd pack the van, take a trip, and she'd be doing an art show at a park or wherever, Fox Hills Mall. And people would come up and they'd be looking at her artwork. And again, I'm middle school age, so I'm 12, 11, sitting around bored, but I would sit back and I would watch people come up and they would ask questions about her artwork. And if I wasn't close enough to hear the conversation, what I learned I had to do is I had to read the people. And I started to pick up on things like a raised eyebrow or a different look or something that would let me know that she said something that didn't line up with the question they asked because she didn't hear them properly. So I'm sitting off over here. It's my mom. I'm gonna take care of her. I don't want her to be embarrassed and whatnot. So I'd sit back and I would sit and watch the people's faces, and I'd step up and get close enough, and then I would interpret, if you will, and let her know what was being said. But little did I know that I was developing a skill that you learn later in law enforcement. You can go to the read and interview and interrogation school. You can take classes on reading body language and micro expressions, but I was doing it from 6 years old,
Mhm.
5, 6, 7. My entire adult life is a skill that I've done, and you can't turn it off. I do it with my family members. It's just a skill that I have. So I call it listening beyond listening, and it's ear hustling. Like I said, there's a talk, and if you want to book me, I'll come teach it.
Yeah, yes, please
Shameless
do.
plug. No,
Yeah,
but
no,
it's something that you can actually learn and it can be
yeah.
developed. Because then I started to look into the science behind it and started to ask questions like, well, what was my brain doing? What were my ears doing? And there's science behind it, and it is actual skill, and you can strengthen muscles in your ear when you're listening harder. There's actually muscles that are developed. And when I learned that, I pictured like, and you picture an animal in the wild, a cat. When they hear something, their ears will turn towards that noise to really key in on. Well, ours do the same thing. We have muscles that work to develop, and it can be developed. So that's something that I've learned, and then I realized it's what's helped me connect with people throughout all the careers I've had, and even what I do now. Everything I've done has been very people oriented because that's easy for me, because I can really connect with people because I have the ability to really listen, active listening skills, using empathy and having patience. That's the key. When you have a mother that's hearing impaired, you don't know the type of patience that you have to have, where you're having to repeat yourself over and over, because you can't get frustrated because it's not their fault they can't hear. So I can't get mad. So you just develop patience. You don't have a choice.
Hmm.
So I've developed that, and that's been a gift that I've had that's helped me, especially in law enforcement. I just have patience with people. If they cross the line, I draw another line. It doesn't bother me. I'm like, okay, crossing the, draw another line, draw another line. And I'm always trying to understand what the other person is saying, but it's like a superpower, because the numbers vary, but it's something like 80 to 90% of our communication is nonverbal.
Oh yeah,
Nonverbal, no
yeah.
words spoken at all. So if that's the case, why are we so worried about the 10? Which we need to be worried about the 10, but what about that other 90? What are you missing because you're not paying attention to everything that's going on? What are you missing? If 90% of the conversation, if the majority of what we say is nonverbal, imagine how you could really connect with people, loved ones, co-workers, if you pay attention to what's not being said. Because many times what comes out of our mouth is not congruent with what our bodies are saying,
Yes,
right?
exactly. Yes, exactly. So,
So
I mean, right off the bat, I mean, the superpowers, yes, yes, indeed. That is tapping into all of your superpowers. Having patience, being able to be an active listener,
mm,
having that sense of empathy, is that is so important in law enforcement, but it's also so important in so many other entities as well. Those are those transferable skills that are so necessary in order to have peaceful interactions, to have, clear and concise information about things. It comes with so many wonderful components. I'm curious, when you started kind of noticing the ear hustling that you spoke of,
Mhm.
when you started thinking about the times when you did help your mother and you kind of crafted that skill, did you think back to those times to think of how much it has helped you in all of your different areas in life?
Yeah, I look back and it's amazing. But again, when you're doing it,
Right.
you don't you don't realize it. And I'm like, oh yeah, I guess I was, because it was
Yeah.
between you and a really good friend of mine. She's a forensic psychologist, and her and I were talking one day, and I started sharing about this, and she said, "Well, you realize you're an expert." And she goes, "You need to write a book. That's what's next." And I thought,
Hmm.
I can't write a book. I haven't gone to medical school. I don't know the. She goes, "No, but you've been doing it for
Yes.
45 plus years."
Yes.
She's like, "You've been doing this thing." And she said, "That's what you need to talk about." So then I started to just, it started with just daydreaming. I started thinking about, like, oh yeah, I remember that time. And I remembered sitting in front, laying on the floor in front of the television. And that, like I said, the yellow phone and the brown phone. And going, oh yeah, what was I doing? Oh, well, I was listening. And then I started to do it from my bedroom when I became a teenager, because I could hear, and I could hear and I realized when I took the science, and you go, oh, well, I was listening to the different inflections in the voices I mean, I was analyzing conversations as a kid, as a teenager, over and over and over, like somebody from a three-letter agency would be doing, eavesdropping on a call.
Wow.
So one of the exercises that I teach for people to do this is to turn the television off, the volume off, and watch a show, and just pay attention to, and depending on the actors, how good they are, and look at the facial expressions and try to gauge what's going on without hearing any words.
Yeah.
Because, that's what I had to learn to do in crowded rooms and different places, where I'm having a conversation, but I'm still paying attention to my mom's over here, and being aware. And then it also helped my situational awareness. I mean, it was all these things that I look back and I'm like, oh, so that's situational awareness, being aware of my. So even though it applied when it came to my mother, it actually applied as a life skill. I'm very aware of what's going on around, to the point that sometimes it can be distracting, because if you and I are having a conversation and somebody walks in the room, I catch that. I catch the person and I can tell you what they were wearing, what they looked like. It just, okay.
Hmm.
Where other people, oh no, I didn't see them. I'm like, how did you not see them? They
Hmm.
walked right in.
Hmm.
Situation awareness. Well, it came from that. Listening, listening to someone's voice can tell, just like the way a mother can tell between a cry and a cry.
Right.
Like, no, no,
See what
something's
you're saying.
wrong. That's a
Right.
different cry. Where mothers
Right.
are great, mothers do it all the time.
Yeah.
What mothers are probably going to see this talk and be like, oh, that ain't nothing. I've been doing it. Well, it's because they have been,
Yeah.
because they're on the phone, they're cooking. Sherman, are
Hmm.
you in there cutting up? You need it. They can hear what's going on. They've been doing it, but it's a life skill that everybody does. So to answer your question, yes, I look back and I go, oh wow, and I can think of moments and situations where I'm like, oh, and then I take the science and the explanation of what I was doing, and I'm like, oh, so that, oh, and
Hmm.
it's kind of humbling when I feel. I mean, again, I'm 53, and my mother since has received a cochlear implant, which bypasses the part of the brain that does with hearing rather, and it goes to her ear. So now she hears 100 times better than she did. And I still interpret for her, and she gets mad and she's like, I heard that. And I'm like, I've been doing this for
Right.
my entire life. I'm like,
Right. You just turn it off.
yeah. Or her and I have a conversation and she'll go, okay. And I'm so used to going, well, did you hear me? Because and then she would repeat back what she heard. Well, she doesn't do that anymore because she's like, I heard you. So it's funny now
Wow.
how it's changed.
It's
The dynamic has
changed.
changed. But anyway, I started with the little rabbit trail. But
No, I
yeah,
think
so it's
that's
amazing.
it's amazing. That it really is. I'm so happy that you were able to tap into something that you have been doing and adding it to your arsenal belt. Like this is something that other people are going to really get a lot of gratification from, and a lot of people need it because, as we've said numerous times, not everybody can listen to people. It's really a challenge for people to actively listen to somebody. There's
Mhm.
the act of hearing, like you can hear something. Like I
Right.
hear the refrigerator going on in my house, but I'm not like paying attention.
Yes.
It's a
Hmm.
noise. But sitting right in front of somebody and letting them talk and listen to every single word that they're saying without any distractions,
Hmm.
that is a skill that not everybody has. And it really sounds like you tapping into this is going to really do some amazing things for other people who really need this type of interaction, especially in law enforcement, because you've been in it, you've lived in the world. You
Hmm.
mentioned earlier how when you started kind of taking on the training for the other cops, they started listening to you because you've been in those spaces. They were able to
Hmm.
buy into it
Right.
because of your experience. And so now, yet again, you're doing something that's going to further, get your foot in the door with this because you've been there. You've been
Hmm.
in these situations. So you can speak to these things with the utmost knowledge and experience because you've lived it. So
Hmm.
that just adds so
Amen.
much
Yeah.
more.
Thank you.
Yeah,
Yeah.
just an incredible thing. So what would you say to somebody that's watching or listening to this show that struggles with staying in that one box. Maybe they want to expound the box, they want to get out
Mhm.
of it, but they just have not had the gumption to do it. What would you say to that person?
Yeah. See, it's tough when I get this question because I'm fortunate because again, I had a mother who
Right,
can't, never could. I was
right.
never allowed to say I can't. And you can understand because you have a woman, a black woman who's hard of hearing. She started losing her hearing when she was an early teenager, and my mother's 82. So you do the math and you see what the climate of the world was. It was like, okay, you're black and you're hard of hearing. Uh, you really don't have either. There's no excuse.
Right.
Nobody's going to give you anything. It's already tough. You're just going to have to figure it out. And that was always, I mean, she never let it stop her. I mean, I could go on about all the accolades and things that she's done, in her life through art and everything else. But she instilled that in me. And it's almost like an arrogance. Like there's nothing that I don't think I can do. So I would encourage somebody is find a way because mine came from my upbringing, so I can't take credit for my upbringing was yes you can, and then she
Mhm.
made me read. So for me, the confidence to get out of the box comes from if I want to do this, I get a book, let me devour this book, learn it, internalize it. Now I feel more confident about this because I've learned this, and I
Hmm.
go. But at the end of the day, man, F the world. You can't be afraid to fail. It's like, so what?
Hmm.
It's if you're a sports guy, you watch whatever Super Bowl, the NBA championship, and you can talk smack about, oh man, they got to Super Bowl, but they got blown out. But I remember one athlete said, "But you guys were home watching me. We may have lost, but you were at the house."
Yeah.
That's my mindset. Yeah, I've done it. So it wasn't successful, but look how far I got. What did you do?
Right.
So it's turning off the world and developing whatever it is in you, that confidence, however you get that confidence. Is it reading? Is it information? Is it affirmations? Man, I'm so huge now later in life on positive and the things that we say, everything from the music you listen to the information, all of those things, because there are too many people, again, back to the books, there are too many people that have said, it works. This is what you need to do. If you visualize it, if you write it down, if you do this, it will come to pass. You will. Your brain does not know the difference. That was one of the things that really changed my mindset when it came to visualization. Is because they say your brain, when you imagine something and you really visualize it and you go there, your brain can't tell the difference between the actual event and what's going on. That's why we get so scared at movies You're watching on the screen, but when that person's creeping around the corner, your heart starts beating because your brain is processing it. Well, if we can do that to make ourselves be scared or to be happy or sad, how about, you know what? I am a successful entrepreneur. I am not afraid to speak in front of people. I'm getting, and you start visualizing and you tell your brain goes, yeah, we are. I mean, Ali was calling himself the greatest before he was.
Hmm.
And literally, what do they call him? The greatest.
Greatest.
He's the guy, and he kept saying it.
He
He kept
manifested it.
saying it,
Right.
kept saying it, kept saying it to where everyone else was like, he's the greatest.
Last question for you. What is
Sir,
one word that personifies who you are?
great. One word. Oh wow. Okay, so let me ask, would this be a word that I would say or other people?
That you would use
I
to
would use
describe
to describe
yourself.
myself.
Yeah.
My dad used to always say I was lighthearted.
Hmm.
So I mean, friendly, lighthearted. I mean, that's friendly, but friendly is not enough. I'm like extra friendly when you get to know me. I guess some people may not.
Yeah. I mean, I don't know if it's because you're on this show, but I'm thinking relatable
Okay, yeah, there you go.
because
Yeah,
that's just that. I mean, if your dad called you
there you go.
lighthearted, I think that's a skill that kind of comes with everybody kind of being able to
Relatable.
relate to you.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So that's what I would say, but I don't want
Yeah.
to make that your
No, that's
word.
good. That's well. Again, I told you I got the best of both worlds. I
You
grew up,
did.
in upper middle class, Sherman Oaks, and all those places, and then on the weekends, I was hanging out in the hood. I
Hmm.
joke now. I said I was living in LA before that was cool. It wasn't cool when I lived. It wasn't. You know, it
Yeah.
wasn't cool. I
It's a
remember
different
when
type
there
of
were
LA.
where my dad lived. There were winos in the alley, and he would give them money to watch his place when we would leave. The winos with the brown bags before crack. And I remember when crack came and all that. But yeah, it was. Yeah, I literally had the best of both worlds.
You did.
I had, yeah, I had enough to where, and a lot of people don't know that. I don't tell a lot. Like I say, because I live there, but a lot of people don't know, man. I have deep roots in both. But again, growing up, it wasn't thanks
Hmm.
to NWA, and not to be cliche, but thanks to when I was a 10th grader, when NWA came out, that all of a sudden being from Compton was cool, being from,
Wow.
all that was cool. It wasn't cool when I was there. I didn't tell my friends because they didn't understand that world. They
Hmm.
didn't get that. My dad was broke. He was broke. He was poor. It's good living though.
But
That was the kind of poor that you didn't know that you were poor.
yeah, yeah. But it made for you to have a great demeanor and a personality that people could connect to. So
Yeah,
made
I
you
had
very
to.
versatile.
I had to because
Yeah.
you couldn't be soft. I
Yeah.
spoke different, so I had to learn. Oh, I can't talk like that with these guys because they make fun of me because I'm going to a good school. When I'm over here, can't do that. So I
Mm,
had to learn.
yeah. That's a whole different topic.
That's a whole. I mean, real talk though. It was real. I can flip a
But
switch though.
I definitely understand that.
Yeah,
Mr. Vincent
absolutely.
Levy, thank you so very
Thank
much for
you. That's been
joining.
amazing.
Really
Amazing.
appreciate you taking some time and speaking with us. I
Thank
know a
you.
lot of people were able to glean a lot of information from you. So thank you for sharing
I hope
your
so. Thank you.
journey and just everything that you're doing. Just I wish and hope you the best with everything.
Appreciate you,
Um,
my friend. Thank
if
you.
individuals want to connect with you, how could they do so?
That's it. You can follow me on my social media handles. I'm so bad at this. It's the lead protector, which is lead underscore executive protection on Instagram. I have a lot of good content regarding the topics that I teach. We're on Facebook, same thing, lead executive protection. And then on LinkedIn, you can find me there. And I've got a lot of articles I've published on LinkedIn. And finally, my website is theleadprotector.com. www.theleadprotector.com.
Awesome. Thank
Reach
you
out to
so
me there.
much. I appreciate that. If there is one thing that you're grateful for today, what would that be?
Mm, wow. One thing, man, that's hard because I'm
Just
so.
Just one thing. I know we got a lot to be grateful for, but like
Yeah, I have a lot, man. I
one
got an
thing.
amazing family, amazing
Yeah.
kids, wife. Like, dude, life is too good, man. I
Mhm.
have no complaints. But I'm just grateful for leveraging life experiences.
Mhm. Yeah.
I'm grateful for. I have a life that's full of experiences, and I mean good, bad, hurt, and I'm thankful for all of them because they've made me who I am today. And I love who I am, and I wouldn't go back and change not one. I love them. I mean, I love who I've become. So I'm thankful,
Yeah. That is
grateful.
that is something definitely to be grateful for. I think today I'm grateful for second chances.
Mm,
Because in life, we tend to think we only get that one shot, but if something is meant for you, you'll be able to go back around and get another
mm-hmm.
opportunity because
Absolutely.
we just serve a God that's just that good. So I appreciate
Absolutely.
second chances.
Yeah.
So I'm grateful for
Yeah.
that.
It's good.
Um, Individuals that's watching today, please make sure you are subscribing to my YouTube page. You
Mm.
can watch this episode, of course, and other previous episodes. And also follow me on all my Facebook and social media platforms. And go to my website and come back again. We're going to have another amazing guest, another amazing topic. Hope you all have a great day. Have a great rest of the week.